Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Vallen, and this is Chisel for Minecraft 1.12.2 by Terag, Drullkus, and Minecreatr. I'm sure some of you may have experienced Chisel in some of its glory in any number of different mod packs. For those that have not, or those that may have, there is plenty to be learned about this mod. It's very simple, but yet also complex behind the scenes. There is not a lot that it adds, but there is also a tremendous amount. And before I continue waffling on with all these weird, strange notions, let's get into this. So Chisel is basically an aesthetic mod. It will allow you to change how blocks look in the world. For example, this is all just stone. Regular old Minecraft stone, and it's been changed to look like other types of blocks, though it still performs functions and otherwise acts as stone does in the vanilla game. I do have some other mods installed in this little mod pack I'm using right now, but it's mostly just to demonstrate the interactivity of this mod with others. Now, it is also an expansive mod. It will change as things go on. The more mods you add in a lot of cases, it will actually have more options available. So, with this, there is a lot to start with, but let's keep it simple. A chisel. It's made simply with a stick and an iron ingot in most cases, unless of course your mod pack has been changed. And you can use it to make all sorts of things. For example, I have down here in Just Enough Items, or JEI, listed at Chisel, which allows me to list all of the items that the Chisel mod adds in. As you can see, there's 11 pages worth. And just this first bunch is a bunch of aluminum blocks, then andesite, then it goes into anti-blocks, basalt, all sorts of different bookcases. Yes, I have quark installed. I have a few other mods as well, but it will allow you to change how these function. To start with, you right-click in the air with nothing, and you will open up this UI, which then will have this grid here on the right, and of course one spot on the left. Take the block that you would like to change the appearance of, and place it in here. It will then show any, if not all, of the options that it can be changed into. For example, I can change this stone into a chiseled stone, or stone brick 2, and therefore I can place it down in the world, and it will look totally different. If I want, then I can just right-click again with that chisel, put it back in. I can also change it back to a regular smooth stone. Now, there is another way of using this chisel that will allow you to still do the same thing, and that is with a left click, as if you are punching the block in question. And it will start slowly cycling through the different things, or the different options available to that block, assuming that there are some. This isn't going to work on entity blocks or chests, things of that nature, so you're going to need to make sure that it is a solid block that you should be able to change the look of. And depending upon the block or the mod, it may have a lot of options, or it might just have a few. So another thing that you can do, for example, I have this as a regular Minecraft stone. If I put this up in the chisel itself, you'll notice that this stone here is currently on a different look. If I left click with this stone still left in the chisel, you notice it's no longer in my inventory, it will actually turn any chiseled blocks into that texture. Therefore, I can revert things very simply and change them all. So I don't need to constantly keep on chiseling this to get to the right face that I want. Instead, I can just make one block the look that I want. For instance, let's make this mossy cobblestone brick, put it back in here, and it is currently stored in the chisel, and then I can just instantly turn things into mossy stone bricks. Very simple and straightforward. It's a very easy design to work with. Now, there are other options available, and there's also some chisel-specific blocks. But before I get into the chisel-specific blocks, let's cover some of these other tools. Namely, we'll go next with the diamond chisel. If you see here, it does have a similar functionality to the regular chisel. It just has a tremendously larger durability. For example, the standard chisel is 512. This one is 5056. Recipe is simply a diamond on a stick, and therefore allowing you to use it in a similar fashion. Therefore, if I right-click, I can use it in the same way as I could before, taking some kind of block, putting it over here, and choosing a different texture for it. But you get some added options. In this case, you can actually do a 3x3 area, a row of 3 blocks, or a column of 3 blocks, or just single individual use. So allow me to grab one of these. I now have a chiseled stone circular pattern. I can then use the diamond chisel, put this in here, and I can say I want them all to be like this. The ornate one, I'll put that back in place. I want it to be in a 3x3 pattern, and you can now see that it will actually change them in the area that is highlighted to that design. So if I go over here, I can then change them all to this new design and then quickly just run around the area according to what exactly they are. Now remember, these are all still stone. None of these have changed, but they will actually not connect together because of how this works. So there you go. I have now changed the texture of that entire area without actually changing any of the others. Now if I wanted to, I could right click, change it to a column, and make it go to bricks on the this column here. And I just want it to be on the side, therefore I can do this. Or if I wanted, instead of a column, because you can use this in a similar fashion with it standing upwards as well, you can instead take this and switch it to a row. Therefore it'll be across from you. And therefore if I were to aim here, it will go across and so on. Therefore allowing you to modify and change things as you desire. And then, of course, if you want, you can always switch it back to single so that you can do individual setups as you need to, and you don't need to worry about it too much. Therefore, just, little enhancements. So moving on, there is even further additions and changes that you can do in the ultimate chiseling tool. And that is with the iChisel. Actually, allow me to right-click with this one instead. Now the iChisel has an even more confusing UI than before, but just remember it keeps it simpler with the regular chisel, a little bit more complex with the diamond, and the iChisel itself goes really, really crazy. So the recipe for this is a diamond chisel with a gold nugget or a gold ingot and redstone attached in most playthroughs. And if you right click, you get this crazy UI, as I said. You get the same options as you had with the diamond chisel, with the single, the 3x3 panel, the column, and the row, but you also get this, the contiguous and the contiguous 2D. Now these are a little bit more, well, let's just say crazy in how they work. So if I were to take the iChisel, I put this up here, and it didn't go up there. I just have to click on it now. It doesn't get stored in there. It will remember. So therefore I want to have them all like this. And you can actually see, you can drag around how this looks in a panel, if it's hollow, if these have connected textures. So therefore, let's try this one here. You can see it's kind of a Celtic pattern, right? A single block. You can then go into a panel and see what it looks like in a panel of them, and so on and so forth. So you can see all different sorts of these designs. Now these may sometimes do a little bit of a glitch. You can also stop it from rotating by clicking on this. You can also chisel it so that it becomes that if you so desire, or you can just, do as you need to. Now, the contiguous and the contiguous 2D. I have an example over here on my left. Let's see. This large ball. So, if I were to choose contiguous, let's just go with contiguous. It says here, chisel an area of alike blocks, extending 10 blocks in any direction. Let's choose mosaic. And if you look here, it doesn't really have much of a connected texture. Actually, let's go with something a little more interesting. I think chiseled stone slanted is going to be much more interesting. Therefore, you'll see a bit crazier of a pattern. Now, it will actually chisel an entire three-dimensional space. So before I chisel anything, let me fly up here, grab one of these regular stone blocks, and dig inside. And you can see it's just regular stone inside. So if I were to use my iChisel, I click, everything in this area becomes these new block types. So it will actually penetrate the surface and change these as desired. Now I just changed those back. I can of course do this and change all those inside. And if I want to change it back, I can just choose regular stone and everything, voila, is returned. Now, if I choose contiguous 2D, this is basically a slice of everything that you aim at. So if you look here, everything that's glowing is kind of behind this front panel. Therefore, if I change this, let's make it back into, we'll do this design instead. You can see now that a whole bunch of these have been changed. And therefore, if I, as before, dig in, you can see that the texture has changed on this one as well. And further behind that is regular stone again. So you have a lot of options with your new iChisel for how to change this. Plus, the fact that it will do a very large area. For example, if I don't fall out of the world, and I actually come back here. Let's go down to the corner here and not fall out of the world again. If I aim here, you can see it actually will kind of cover an area. These are all just highlighting like blocks, but it will cover more or less the area that a bucket of water poured on a very flat, even surface would cover, more or less. Maybe slightly more than that. But if I so desired, I could change these all to sunken texture, which actually I think that might be what that is. So let's change this to trodden bricks. Boom. Changes all of them just like that. And then if I wanted to change them to something else, say sunken, I could change them to sunken, and then it goes back to that as well. Pretty darn cool. It's very handy for a lot of things, especially builders, creators, crafters, and so on. Now there is one other tool after the iChisel, which of course in itself is fantastic, but sometimes you need a little bit of help. Let's go into some of these other blocks, and you can then better see how to use an ender offset wand, which is actually made in this aspect, basically an ender pearl on a stick, with a couple of bars of iron or iron ingots smashed on the side. These ones here are basically the different blocks. Now, not all the iterations of those blocks, because remember, they can all be changed in many different ways with how you want them to change, but they can all be crafted via chisel. So, for example, a factory block with this is made with stone and iron ingots. Will get you 32 of these. These are basically just decorative blocks. They make really cool sounds and so on. So if I take out the stone in this is why these weren't actually working before, take out the mossy cobble and so on, I can then change this to all the different types of textures that I have in here. Of course, if I wanted, I could always put a block of one of these in my hand, and then I could put it in my chisel of whatever type it is and see all the different variants that it can be turned into. And of course, as I said, you get 32 of these things with each crafting recipe. Now, beyond that, we've got other blocks like Futura blocks, which, as you can see, are just made with a little piece of redstone and some stone. We'll get you 8 of them at a time, and then chiseling them will get you some of these really crazy, wacky, different designs. So as you can see, we've got all sorts to choose from in this case. And some of them will have connected textures. As you can see, putting this in here, it will actually show, let's actually use the iChisel instead, because it gives that preview. If I take out this, and instead I choose that one, it will then say, all right, well, let's see. Do these, oh, those have connected texture. This doesn't, oh, wait, yes, it does, because it actually will just expand out this large border. This one here has some really crazy stuff in the middle as well, and you can see that each one will have different things. So you can see a single block looks totally different from a 3x3 because of the connected textures. Same thing with the gray screen area that you have here. Now we can also go into laboratory blocks, and you can see all the different types and varieties that you have to choose from. In this case, you've got your lava stone, which actually lava stone and water stone are unique, or at least similar in some ways, but rather unique in that they have slow moving animations. Lava stone has, as you can see here, some moving lava type texture, and the water stone has a moving water texture on those, therefore allowing them a little bit of variety and keeping some kind of theme in with that whole thing. Now, paper wall will allow you to create things like your traditional Asian influenced paper wall designs and so on. You've got your temple blocks, which will allow you to build some really crazy designs with perhaps some cracked stone and whatnot. You've got your Tyrian, which is just good all around crazy looking metallic space sci-fi style. Your Valentine's blocks, which can be used for fun, hearts, and of course, portal. Going into your water stone, you have all of your traditional stone designs. Same thing with the lava stone. If you look, they're very similar indeed, just different textures for the lava and the water, allowing you to actually use any of the regular stone textures to kind of change those as well. Each one of these is going to be made differently. Then, of course, you've got your cloud, which if I click here, click on this, you can see that they look plain, but when they're actually in the world, they're transparent, or rather translucent, as you can see mostly through them, and they're pretty darn cool. They are solid blocks, though, so you don't fall through them, they don't cushion your fall or anything like that, so they're not cheaty, but they are just a really cool aesthetic. Moving on from that, we've got anti-blocks, which are just your really brilliant, strong, solid colors with a dark border around them. And then, of course, the all-famous void stone, which is great for just about any kind of magic build. Let's stop that from spinning and give you guys a little bit of a perspective. And you can see all the different types. Some of them will have connected textures like this. Others will not. And you can actually change out the different colors of the runes that you could potentially chisel into place. It's really, really fantastic stuff. And each of these are craftable, like your Futura block. As I said, redstone, this one here takes nether quartz, you get 8. Your lava stone gets lava bucket, you get 8. Paper wall, a stick and paper gets you 32. Temple block, some dye and stone. Each one of them has a very simple recipe that will allow you to get several different kinds of crafting blocks all in one go. Of course, your cloud's going to be a bunch of wool, anti-blocks, some glowstone, and your void stone is going to be one of 2 different options depending upon what you have available and how much you get back for either. Now that's not all. Remember, I was talking about the Ender offset wand. If you look here, we have some of this factory block, and it has a lot of different options. If I choose the iChisel and I click on the factory block, you can of course see that there was the original one here that we've got at the corner, plus some of the other variations. Now you notice some of those textures actually move. For example, we have some of these little fans up at the top here, and we've got this really big one. This one, in this case, if I were to grab some and place it down, you can see it actually is a lot of different textures that will connect together. Now sometimes though, they don't quite line up as you want. For example, if I had a 3x3 right here, and I was like, doggone it, I need this fan to be in the center of this, but it's not building the way I want it to. That is what the Ender offset wand does. So when you've got larger connected textures, it will allow you to move things. If I want it to go down one, I just need to right click instead of left, because it's not actually changing the block, it's just rotating the texture on it. And therefore I can rotate these through as I want. Now that didn't really help, so let's just keep going. I can also move this to the side, therefore allowing it to line up as I want it to be. Of course, the sides of these are going to look a little bit wonky, but usually they're encased in some kind of block face. Therefore, you do not see the sides and are not going to have any kind of issue with it. So there you go. Got yourself this giant fan blade of an abomination going on in some kind of factory building, whatever. It's really cool stuff. I've been enjoying this a lot. A lot of people have for a long time, and it changes depending upon your Minecraft version and the mods you have installed. For example, I also have a couple different mods that use the same type of material. In this case, marble. I've got astral sorcery included, and I've got quark. So therefore, you're just seeing the chisel variants right now, but if I type in marble, you can see that I have a considerable amount more. So if I take some sooty marble from astral sorcery in this case, I choose it on here, I then choose that. Or a better example, if I choose regular marble instead of sooty, it would allow you to see all the different variations that there are in this case. I just accidentally clicked. But you can see that there's a whole bunch of quark stuff down here, astral sorcery, as well as all the different chisel variants. So if you have one type that you keep finding in the world, let's say quark marble, and you need astral sorcery marble, this would be one way of converting blocks from one type to another. Now, let's say that you've got a massive build ahead of you, and you're tired of right-clicking and taking one stack at a time into your chisel and changing each one of these. It's just going to be killer. I mean, you can feasibly take, several bunches of these, click your marble variant, I want this type, and chisel that. Chisel, 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 chisel. That's really handy. It's really good, and it works, let me tell you. You can also then, change each one individually, and it will cycle back through again, which is just really nice. This is one way I highly recommend. If you really want to, though, you can use an auto-chisel. Now, in the past, this has had some issues. In the current version that I'm using for this demonstration, it does as well. But that aside, it's very handy. I have behind this a generator, basically from Generator mod, that is powering this. As you can see here, it does require 20 forge energy per tick in this example. And it will actually start creating a stack of items to whatever you like at a time. So in this case, light blue wool. If I choose U for the use of it in JEI, I choose the chiseling tab. And you can see that there are 3 different variants. Your traditional vanilla Minecraft, and then a couple that Chisel adds in, light blue wool and light blue wool llama carpet. and this one's the legacy carpet. Therefore, each one can be very interesting. So if I have one, which I do, a llama carpet here, and I tell it that I want all these light blue wool that I put in place here, I already did this earlier, and yes, you can pipe into and out of this with different items. You put a chisel in place here, which I do recommend you use at least a diamond chisel, not a regular chisel, as it will just destroy this very quickly. You then put it in here, and you'll see that it will start processing these, and you'll notice that the durability on this is going down as it's processing those. So, the problem that you might have is that in the current version I'm running at the moment, any chisel that is in here, if it runs out of durability, it breaks, it will crash you to desktop. Which, that's just a little glitch that sometimes may happen. So I recommend that you are using this until you get low on durability, and then you stop using it. But alternately, I recommend the iChisel, because it's just so much easier to just, as I was showing you before, change all the types in your inventory just with a few clicks. It will cycle through all the same type of stone, and you're done. Very easy, straightforward, and a beautiful mod nonetheless. So if you guys enjoyed this bit by bit on Chisel, please be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, be sure to spread the Mischief to others if you think that they'll enjoy this kind of content too. And if you want to support the Mischief, you can check out the links in the description below. Until next time, folks, I'll see ya.